Hello, I, Professor Amruta Ipagokar, would like to present this video on the topic sampling design. So here it is a part of business research method 4th unit, and in this particular video I will be dealing with what sampling design is helpful in the research. Coming to before moving to what is sampling design, we would like to know what is sample exactly, right? So a basic introduction of sample is going to be dealt here. That is sampling frame. Sampling frame comprises all the elements of a population. So population, what is population? So population refers to any group of people or objects that form the subject of study in a particular survey and are similar in one or more ways. So for example, I would like to quote an example here. The number of full-time MBA students in a business school could form one population. If there are 200 such students, the population size would be 200. So we may be understanding that, we may be interested in understanding their perceptions about business education. So here we can consider this 200 as the population, and whenever we say sample, then we can take some sample out of this 200 students, that is 50. If you take it, then that becomes the sample. So this is what is sample, and based on that I have tried to define population. Coming to the sampling frame comprises all the elements of a population. That is, whatever are the elements, that is what makes in the previous example whatever we have dealt, there what comes is the elements of the particular population. That is, he is MBA, he is doing MBA, so he is doing an MBA, he has taken the admission in first year or second year. So all those becomes the elements of a population with proper identification that is available to us for selection at any stage of sampling. So for example, even here one more example I would like to quote is like the list of registered voters in a constituency could form a sampling frame. Even one more example we could take is like number of students registered with a university, such as our Pune University. You can take it out. Even you can take Hyderabad University. There are many universities, right? So a number of students registered with a university forms a sampling frame. And payroll of an organization also we can take the example as for the sampling frame. Even what is sampling then? The process of selecting the right individuals, objects or events for the study. So if you are trying to do some study or research, so the process of selecting the right individuals which will guide us in trying to find out some solution becomes the sampling, right? So for that purpose we go with this particular sampling process. So even it is called as a single member of a particular sample is called sampling unit. So even whatever we consider as the sample, right, and the single member of the particular sample is called as the sampling unit. So even we can take the example of in our day-to-day life also we use this particular sampling and population. For example, if you go to a bookshop to buy a magazine, right? So before you decide to buy it, you may flip through the pages, right? You want to know what exactly the particular magazine contents are, right? So you don't do you go like there and you randomly pick up any book? No, it doesn't happen, right? You just turn out the pages, you look into it, whether I should go with it, this content is, does it attracts me, right? So that's what happens, right? So whether the contents of the magazines are of interest to you or not. Again, a sample of pages is taken from the magazine. So this is what is sample. Did you get it? That is, we are trying to see from the sample you are coming to know that exactly that particular magazine will be suitable for you, so that it can create an interest and you can go, you should buy it or not, right? So you can you just relate it, that is, you are trying to pick up a magazine, based on its contents you just flip 2 or 3 pages. 2 or 3 pages are the sample here, and based on that you are trying to take a decision whether you should buy that magazine or not. So this is what is the concept of sample. Coming to sampling design, what is sampling design? So sampling design refers to the process of selecting samples from a population. So basically there are two types, that is probability sampling designs and non-probability sampling designs. So first of all we'll look into what is probability sampling designs. Probability sampling designs are used in conclusive research. That is, wherever we want to derive some conclusions exactly there we try to apply this probability sample designs. So in this design, each and every element of the population has a known chance of being selected in the sample. So that is what happens is like in this design we know exactly that okay, every element has the that is there is a chance, probability is the basic, right? That is what is probability is. That is there is an equal that is there is a known chance. We can't even say that is there is an equal chance of every sampling unit getting selected. Remember this one thing. We are just saying that there is a known chance of being selected in the sample. So that is what is probability sample designs. Under probability sample designs, there are 4 types. That is simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified random sampling, and cluster sampling. We will be dealing all these 4 types in the next part of the video. The next one is the next second type of the sampling design is non-probability sampling designs. The elements of the population do not have any known chance of being selected in the sample. So here what happens is like you don't know exactly which sampling unit will be getting selected. So there is no determination or no known chance of being selected in the sample. And even under this non-probability sampling, there are 4 types which we will be covering in this video. They are convenience sampling, judgmental sampling, snowball sampling, and quota sampling. So let's see all these types of sampling design in detail, and with examples I would like to explain to you. Coming to our first one of probability sampling is simple random sampling. So this simple random sampling is like simply picking up from randomly, you are trying to pick it up from the available sample with you. That is, you are choosing the sample randomly from the population. So applicable when population is small, homogeneous, and readily available. So wherever this population is very small, simple random sampling can be implemented. So all subsets of the frame are given an equal probability. Here under simple random sampling, as I have discussed in the earlier part of the video, that is there is not an equal chance, I said, right, in probability sampling. But in simple random sampling, there is an equal probability of getting selected. So it provides for greatest number of possible samples. This is done by assigning a number to each unit in the sampling frame. So here that is they assign a number to each unit in the sampling frame and they try to randomly pick up. So a table of random number or lottery system is used to determine which units are to be selected. It is not used in consumer research as the population size is usually very large. So which creates problems in the preparation of sampling frame. So this basically simple random sampling is a very simple concept. As you can see, randomly we try to pick it up. The best example for this is I have given the photo of it. Many of you play housey or tambola, we say. There what happens is like you have you give the participants cards and randomly you pick numbers from 1 to 100, right? Remember this game? So based on this particular game, this is an example, that is the best example I can quote you for simple random sampling. That is, you are picking up randomly one, right? In tambola what you do in housey, that is you randomly pick the numbers which a particular person picks up, and we try to see it whether we got that particular selected sample or not, right? Selected number or not. So that is what is simple random sampling. Advantages, if you consider, estimates are easy to calculate because it is very simple, right? And as we are saying that we can apply it to the population where it is small, right? So calculations are easily done. Disadvantages are if sampling frame is large, this method is impracticable because what happens is like more population is there, choosing all the numbers, it is very difficult, right? And giving equal chance to all the particular elements of the population is really difficult, right? So that is a disadvantage of simple random sampling. And minority subgroups of interest is in population may not be present in sample, and which is insufficient number, which is not suitable for the study. So that is also a disadvantage of simple random sampling. So this was regarding simple random sampling. Coming to the next second type of probability sampling is systematic sampling. It relies on arranging the target population according to some ordering scheme and then selecting elements at regular intervals through that order list. So first you try to select it and then randomly you try to pick up the things. So here as the name suggests, systematic sampling. So the first unit of sample is selected at random, and having chosen this, there is no control over the subsequent units of sample. Due to this reason, it is at times referred to as mixed sampling. Even a best example I would like to suggest you here, I would like to quote here is like, you can take the salads, right? If you are trying to make a salad in a bowl, right? Systematic comes is like when you exactly know what ingredients you want to put it into your salad. So I know that, okay, once I put this, once I put cucumber, I want to add lettuce leaves, I want to add this. So systematically happens that, and in that you are going to add pepper only, you are going to add this only. So you know what exactly you are going to do, so that becomes a systematic sampling. And if you compare the same example with the simple random sampling, where you can consider that is you are making a salad, randomly you are picking up the vegetables available at your house and you are trying to prepare the salad, right? So that was simple random sampling. But here systematic, you know exactly how much you want to put it into the dish and how much you are going to make it, and you know what exactly the result can be, right? So systematic sampling involves a random start and then proceeds with the selection of every kth element from then onwards. So in this case, the k is called as the sometimes population size or sample size. It is important that the starting point is not automatically the first in the list, but is instead randomly chosen from within the first to the kth element in the list. So a simple example would be to select every 10th name from the telephone directory. So and every 10th sample, also referred to as the sampling with a skip of 10. Even we can call this a sample with a skip of 10, because for example, you take the first one and then you go with the 10th sample, right? And once 10th sample is chosen, you go for the 20th telephone directory name, and then you go for 30, 40, 50, 60 and so on up to 100 if they are there, or if they are in the particular 200, how many direct names are there in the telephone directory. So randomly you're not going for the randomly here, a systematic sampling. So you know that is every 10th element have to be selected and that becomes our sample, right? So this is called as the systematic sampling. Advantages coming to it. So sample easy to select and suitable sampling frame can be identified easily, right? And sample evenly spread over entire reference population. Even the sample is evenly spread over entire reference population, as we know, right? 10th one we are going to choose, so it is evenly spread, right? And what the disadvantages can be here? So sample may be biased if hidden periodicity in population coincides with that of selection, right? So even it is difficult to assess the precision of estimate from one survey. So and major applications, if you can see, is in health studies. In recent years only, I was going through some of the articles. UNICEF and WHO have been extensively using this particular systematic sampling method worldwide in finding out the child nutrition and iodine deficiency disorders. And the surveys they have conducted, for that purpose they have used this systematic sampling method to assess the prevalence of this particular diseases. So even this is a good thing which I thought of including in my video, so that it can help you in quoting some of the examples, and even whenever you are planning to choose the design, sample design, even it helps out in that. So this was regarding systematic sampling. Coming to our third that is third type of probability sampling is stratified sampling. So stratified sampling involves dividing the entire population into strata. That is what is called as strata. This is a very important element of stratified sampling. Strata which are mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive too. That is, they don't depend upon each other, mutually exclusive they are, right? And every unit in a stratum has same chance of being selected, as they are mutually exclusive, right? and using same sampling fraction for all strata ensures proportionate representation in the sample. So there is a proportionate representation of the sample here happens. So adequate representation of minority subgroups of interest can be ensured by stratification and varying sampling fraction between strata as required. So finally, since each stratum is treated as an independent population, different sampling approaches can be applied to different strata. So here you can apply different sampling approaches. So it is more efficient as compared to simple random sampling, as dividing the population into various strata increases the representativeness of the sampling, right? So that is what is very good part of this particular stratified sampling, because you're dividing the whole population into into groups, that is called as strata, right? So entire population into strata you are dividing, and based on that, and even there is an equal chance of getting selected, right? So that is what is a good part of this. The criteria for stratification should be related to the objectives of the study, and even if you see into the drawbacks of it, the sampling frame of entire population has to be prepared separately, and even if you see separately for each stratum, right? So it becomes a bit difficult for the particular thing. Secondly, when examining multiple criteria, stratifying variables may be related to some but not to others. So further it is complicating our job, right? So that is what is the particular complicating the design and even potentially reducing the utility of the strata. So finally, in some cases, such as designs with a large number of strata or those with a specified minimum sample size per group, stratified sampling can potentially require a larger sample than would other methods, right? So if you see in stratifying method, it is very easy to implement actually, but even also it is difficult to get the things, right? So that is what happens in stratifying sample. Okay, we can consider one example here, that is the researcher may be interested in knowing the average monthly sales of cell phones in large, medium and small stores. So here the researcher can divide the strata into large stores, medium stores and small stores, and based on that how much average monthly sales of cell phones happen. So he can do the particular research very properly by dividing it into three stores, that is large, medium, small, and this large stores, medium stores and small stores become the three stratas based on which he could analyze, that is how much monthly average sales happen and how they perform, and how they can derive some conclusion out of it. So that is why it is used in that particular area. So you can see the example can be related very nicely. That is three stratas they have divided the particular population into, and then they have tried to take out the information, and based on the information they can see which sampling design can be applied, right? So this was regarding stratified sampling. Coming to the fourth type of probability sampling is the cluster sampling. In cluster sampling, we divide the whole population into clusters according to some well-defined rule. So treat the customers as sampling units. Choose a sample of clusters according to some procedure. Any procedure, it depends upon the researchers what procedure they choose it. Carrying out this particular complete enumeration of the selected clusters, that is collecting information on all the sampling units available in selected clusters, and then population is divided into the clusters of homogeneous units, usually based on geographical contiguity or anything it can be. So based on the researcher's comfort. So that is, you are trying to divide the population into clusters. So in cluster sampling, the elements within the clusters are heterogeneous. That is, they are different, but there is a homogeneity between the clusters. So within the cluster there is different groups, but there are differences in the cluster groups, right? And if you see, a sample of such clusters is then selected which you want, that is sampling units are grouped rather than individuals. So you are trying to group out, and then based on that particular groups, a sample of such clusters is then selected, and all units from the selected clusters are tried to study, right? So there are two types of cluster sampling methods: one stage sampling all of the elements within the selected clusters are included in the sample. And the second one is the two-stage sampling. So a subset of elements within selected clusters are randomly selected for inclusion in the sample. So here the advantages of the one stage, that is cluster sampling, are like cost can be a particular thing where you can save, cut downs of cost can be seen, and this can reduce travel and other administrative costs also. And the disadvantages can be sampling error is higher for a sample that is higher here. And if you see, often used to evaluate many of the, that is, if you see the application of cluster sampling, it is often used to evaluate vaccination coverage in a particular area. So even this is a particular thing. And even the disadvantage is a cluster may not be contain heterogeneous elements. So therefore the applicability of this particular cluster sampling to an organizational context may be questioned, right? So even if you see, as we are saying, right, clusters when are formed based on an criteria, that is they will be heterogeneous, right? If this heterogeneous condition is not satisfied, you can't implement cluster properly. So even this becomes a disadvantage. I'll explain the concept of cluster sampling with an example. For example, we can consider an organizational committee is drawn from various departments to advise the CEO of a company on product development, so new product ideas, or for evaluating alternative advertising programs, budget allocations, and marketing strategies. So each of the cluster here, whatever are formed, comprises a heterogeneous collection of members with different interests, backgrounds, experience, value system, and philosophy. So the CEO of the company may be able to take strategic decisions based upon their combined advice. So you can see that is heterogeneous, how they can help in getting the particular problem solved. So here there is an heterogeneous combination we are trying to see in the organizational concept, right? So you can apply this cluster sampling in various ways, and in research also it helps a lot. So this is regarding cluster sampling. Coming to our second part of the video, that is when to use non-probability sampling. That is, what is non-probability sampling? So this type of sampling can be used when demonstrating that a particular trait exists in the population. So if you observe a particular trait, then you go with the using of non-probability sampling. So it can also be used when the researcher aims to do a qualitative pilot or exploratory study. Whenever we are going for the exploratory study, we go for the non-probability sampling design. So it can be used when randomization is impossible, like when the population is almost limitless. It can be used when the research does not aim to generate results that will be used to create generalizations pertaining to the entire population. So even if you observe, it helps the researcher who has a limited budget, time, and workforce. This technique can also be used in an initial study, which will be carried out again using a randomized probability sampling. So even it can be used as an initial study concept also, whether we should go with that particular research or not, right? So before that also we can use it, and we can see, then we can go ahead with the randomized probability sampling too. So let's see the types of non-probability sampling. Coming to the first type of non-probability sampling, it is called as the convenience sampling. So convenience sampling is used to obtain information quickly and inexpensively. As the name indicates, convenience, right? So based on the researcher's convenience, this particular samples are selected. The only best description of convenience sampling is. So the only criteria of selecting sampling units in this scheme is the convenience of researcher, and mostly the convenience used are neighbors, friends, family, colleagues, and passerbys. So even you can observe in the, you might have observed whenever you go to the malls, right? There is a particular salesperson who is asking you, please, can you taste this particular sample and you can give us your feedback. Taste our product and give us the your feedback. So convenience sampling, you are choosing based on your convenience, you are taking particular person and you are asking him, right? So that's a good example of convenience sampling. It is often used in the pre-test phase of a research study such as the pre-testing of the questionnaire, and everything is done based on the convenience sampling, right? That is, whenever you prepare a questionnaire, you send it to your close friends, right? And you ask them, okay, can you please give inputs on how the particular questionnaire has been designed, right? So here the convenience sampling can be used very effectively. Even people interviewed in a shopping center for their political opinion for a TV program is also a best example for convenience sampling. In all the above situations, if you can see, the sampling unit may either be self-selected or selected because of ease of availability. So no effort is made to choose a representative sample here. And even if you see, convenience sampling is commonly used in exploratory research. This is because the purpose of an exploratory research is to gain an insight into the problem and generate a set of hypotheses which could be tested with the help of a conclusive research. So when very little is known about a subject, a small scale convenience sampling can be of use in the exploratory work to help understand the range of variability of responses in a subject area. So convenience sampling is the best part, that is, it's a very simple sampling method which can be used by many researchers. So this was about convenience sampling. Coming to our second part of sampling design is the judgmental sampling. As the name itself indicates, judgmental, right? So also called, it is also called as the purposive sampling or authoritative sampling, and it is a non-probability sampling technique in which the sample members are chosen only on the basis of the researcher's knowledge and judgment. So that is why it is called as judgment sampling. So based on the judgment of the researcher, the samples are chosen. As the researcher's knowledge is instrumental in creating a sample, in this sampling technique, there are chances that the results obtained will be highly accurate with a minimum margin of error. For example, a company wanting to launch a new product may use judgmental sampling for selecting experts who have prior knowledge or experience of similar products, right? So a focus group of such experts may be conducted to get valuable insights. So you can select some of the people who can guide you on whether that particular product whether that particular product is good or not, and how do you perceive that particular new product which we are trying to introduce into the market, right? So here the application of judgment sampling can be into business to business marketing, B2B marketing, test new product concepts, producing programs, and etc. So many of there can be the applications, and most of the time the researchers who wants the survey to be completed means like if they want to go with their own comfort zone, they will be choosing judgment sampling. So this is regarding judgment sampling. Coming to the third type of sampling design is snowball sampling. So snowball sampling is generally used when it is difficult to identify the members of the desired population. Example: deep sea divers, families with triplets, people using hearing aids, doctors specializing in a particular ailment, etc. So here you can take the examples, right? Whatever examples I have quoted just now, you can observe families with triplets, people using hearing aids. So you want to take this particular things as the population. So under this design, each respondent after being interviewed is asked to identify one or more in the field. See, it becomes very difficult, right? If you want to identify families with triplets, can you easily find out, can you get this particular population sample? How can you take it? So while you are trying to take the samples, what you do is like snowball you try to do. That is, once you interview someone, you ask like, does your family have, do you know any people who have triplets in their house? So you are trying to ask them, and then you are going to collect the information, and you are trying to go as a ball moves from one part to the other part. Similarly, this sampling takes place. So that is why it is called as snowball sampling. So under this design, as we said, I would like to repeat it once again. Each respondent after being interviewed is asked to identify one or more in the field. So this could result in a very useful sample, right? The only main problem is in making the initial contact. It is very difficult to make the initial contact, but once you make the initial contact, once this is done, these cases identify more members of the population who then identify further members and so on. So the ball moves on, right? So similarly, that is why it is called as snowball sampling. And even you can observe here that as you initial contact is very difficult, because getting a family with triplet is difficult, but once you get it, it happens, right? If I have triplets in my house, I know that okay, somebody I meet and they say that, oh, I have triplets, so you remember them because you are being unique, even they are being unique, you remember the unique people. So that is why, even that is, I am trying to quote an example. So in this way you try to get into touch with other person, and then you get the contacts, and that is what happens, that is you identify the further members and the so on, right? So it may be difficult to get a representative sample here, that is an advantage in this. So one plausible reason for this could be that the initial respondents may identify other potential respondents who are similar to themselves. So even the next problem related to it is to identify the new cases also. So even identifying new cases is also a disadvantage of snowball sampling. But once you get the link and you get the particular samples and you get the, but it will give you effective results. So this was regarding snowball sampling. Coming to our third type of sampling, fourth type of sampling is the non-probability sampling, is the quota sampling. In quota sampling, the sample includes a minimum number from each specified subgroup in the population. The sample is selected on the basis of certain demographic characteristics such as age, gender, occupation, education, etc. So the investigator is asked to choose a sample that conforms to those parameters. So field workers are assigned quotas of the sample to be selected satisfying these characteristics. So even field workers can be assigned quotas also to that is quotas of the sample to be selected satisfying these particular characteristics. So that is, you are trying to divide that particular population into the quotas based on demographic characteristics or any characteristics based on the researcher's requirement. For example, we can consider a researcher wants to measure the job satisfaction level among the employees of a large organization and believes that the job satisfaction level varies across different types of employees. So here you will be trying to differentiate them, that is different types of employees you are trying to, that is based on the different types of employees you are trying to find out what are there in that particular organization, and that is you are trying to form the quotas there, and based on that you are trying to find out what the job satisfaction level is. So you are going in depth of the based on the types of the employees, how are you satisfied, whether it can be based on the income levels also, that is high income level, medium and low. Based on that you are going to categorize your quota sampling, and then you are going to identify the job satisfaction level. Or based on the genders you can go it, male and female. Based on their educational background also you can go. Based on the age you can go. So based on the demographic characteristics you can categorize this particular different types of employees on into quotas, and then identifying the job satisfaction level, and then contributing your, then you get the particular results, right? So quota sampling does not require a sampling frame here, and it is economical and does not take too much time to set up. So that is a big quality of quota sampling, that is it does not take much of the time to set up, and it is the simplest one to implement. So this was regarding quota sampling, and thank you.